Turn that chair around, ma'am. People like you eat elsewhere. That's what the young man at the velvet rope said to my sister that night, his voice as cold as the polished brass handle he was gripping. Have you ever watched someone you love be treated like a problem, instead of a person? Pull your chair a little closer, dear. Let this old woman tell you about the night our city's fanciest restaurant tried to humiliate my baby sister, and discovered they had chosen the worst possible woman to underestimate. Her name is Lena Hart. To the world of food and fine dining, though, she was known by another name, one that made owners lose sleep and chefs pace the kitchen all night, L.H. Hart. They all imagined L.H. Hart was a stern gentleman in an expensive suit. They pictured a tall man who swirled wine, tapped his pen, and wrote words that could lift or sink a restaurant in a single review. They were half right. The words could indeed build or break dreams. They just never pictured those words being written by a woman in a wheelchair, with silver bracelets on her wrists and an old injury in her spine. Now, I'm getting ahead of myself. It was late autumn, the kind of evening when the air bites your cheeks and the city lights up like a necklace. On the corner of Maple and Fifth, a new place had opened, the Marigold Room. Its windows were tall and glowing, its door guarded by a velvet rope and a very nervous young host. The papers called it exclusive. Socialites called it the place. But there was another word floating quietly around town. Cruel. People were beginning to whisper that the Marigold Room didn't like wheelchairs, walkers, canes, or anyone who moved differently. Have you ever felt that sting, when a smile at the door hides 1,000 ways to say, "You're not welcome"? Lena had read the rumors. In fact, she had received letter after letter from readers, veterans, grandmothers, young women with braces on their legs, all saying the same thing. They told me the tables were full when they weren't. They said there was a special event every time I came. They made me feel like I was clutter on their pretty floor. Lena could have written her review right then, just from those stories. But that wasn't her way. If I'm going to call out a place, she told me that afternoon, as I tucked a scarf around her neck, I'm going to look them in the eye while they show me who they are. Are you sure you want to go alone? I asked. At my age, worry settles into the bones as naturally as the weather. She smiled, that stubborn little smile she's had since she was a girl. Aunt May, I built a life on tasting soup in back alleys and caviar in crystal halls. I can handle one more dining room. But what she walked into that night was more than just a dining room. The Marigold Room was hosting a private gala for investors, critics, and the city's elite. Crystal glittered, violins whispered, and a red carpet had been rolled across the sidewalk like a tongue-tasting status. Lena had a confirmed reservation under a simple name, Mrs. Hart. No initials. No title. Just another guest, or so they thought. She rolled up to the rope, her wheels whispering on the stone. The host, a young man with perfect hair and shoes polished so bright you could almost see yourself in them, stepped in front of her. I'm sorry, ma'am, he said, tugging the rope closer to his chest. This is a private evening. Lena's voice stayed gentle. I know. I have a reservation. Hart. 8 o'clock. The boy's smile didn't move his eyes. We do have a reservation under Hart, yes. But there's a dress standard tonight. Lena glanced down. Her blouse was silk, her skirt dark and formal, her hair pinned back with little silver clips I had given her. Is something wrong with my clothes? It's the shoes. He cleared his throat, looking everywhere but at her chair. All guests tonight are required to wear high heels. It's a signature touch. Now, tell me, child, what kind of signature needs to sit on a woman's feet to feel important? Lena's lips pressed into a line. I'm wearing dress flats, she said. They're all I can manage. I'm afraid that won't do. The boy's tone sharpened, like a fork scraping porcelain. The owner is very firm. It's heels or no entry. There are plenty of places around the corner that might be more comfortable for you. There it was, that tiny, poisonous you. Not for tonight. Not for your party size. For you. Lena might have turned away. Another woman might have gone home to cry into her pillow, or laughed bitterly and ordered takeout. But my sister has never walked away from a locked door without at least jiggling the handle. She backed away from the rope, her eyes scanning the street. The city moved around her, taxis, heels clicking on pavement, laughter spilling from open windows. Just then, a woman about Lena's age stepped out of a cab, wobbling slightly on a pair of glittering high heels that looked like torture devices disguised as shoes. She winced, shifting her weight. Lena called out, "Excuse me, miss?" The woman turned, clutching her shawl. "I'm not buying anything, sweetheart." Lena smiled. "I'm not selling. I'm trying to buy. Have you noticed how quickly people listen when money is involved?" She held up a neat roll of bills. "How attached are you to those shoes?" The woman blinked. "You want these?" "You can't even." She stopped, embarrassed, eyes flicking to the wheelchair. "I know I won't walk in them," Lena said softly. "I just need them on my feet for about 30 seconds. Double what you paid, and you can wear my flats the rest of the night." They're kinder. That was Lena, always bartering dignity and mischief in the same breath. Within a few minutes, the stranger was sighing in relief as she slipped into Lena's soft flats. Lena's aide, who had dropped her off and circled back to help, lifted each of Lena's feet and gently slid the sparkling heels over them, buckling the straps against her pale ankles. The shoes looked absurd, perched on feet that had not borne weight in years. But rules were rules, the Marigold room had said. So Lena rolled back to the rope, high heels uselessly polished in the lamplight. When the host glanced down and saw them, his eyebrows jumped. "Ah. I see you've complied." "Yes," Lena replied. "May I come in now?" He hesitated, then lifted the rope, making a show of being gracious. "Of course. Have a wonderful evening." "Wonderful. If only." Inside, the room glowed with quiet arrogance. Gold-framed mirrors reflected chandeliers. Couples in designer suits floated across the floor. Every place was set with attention, except for the table reserved for Mrs. Hart, which was pushed awkwardly near a supporting column, half blocking the aisle. Have you ever walked, or rolled, into a space and felt every eye skim past you as if you were a smudge on glass? The waiter assigned to Lena approached with a tight smile that didn't quite make it all the way to his cheeks. "Good evening," he said, glancing pointedly at her wheels before looking at his notepad. "Do you have everything you need, mechanically speaking?" Lena caught the undertone. "My chair is fine. I'm here for dinner, not a tune-up." He cleared his throat. "Right. The chef has prepared a fixed menu for our special guests tonight. No substitutions." "Fixed menus are fine," Lena said. "As long as there are no nuts. I have a severe allergy." The waiter frowned. "There are toasted almonds in the salad and crushed pistachios on the main course." "Is there another option?" she asked. "I won't risk my throat closing in such a beautiful room." "Then just eat around them," he replied, already beginning to step away. "Now, child, can you imagine being told to sort danger out of every bite by hand, while everyone else eats carefree?" Lena's voice cooled. "I'm asking for a nut-free plate." "Surely that's not impossible." "Tonight, it is," he answered. "The kitchen is very busy. Perhaps this venue isn't ideal for you." There was that you again. Still, Lena stayed. She always believed people should be given every chance to do better, even while they were doing their worst. As the night moved on, couples began to dance in the small open space between tables. A trio played something sweet and slow. At a nearby table, a well-dressed man swirled his wine, eyeing Lena with open disgust. He leaned toward the manager, a woman in a sleek black dress moving from table to table like she owned the air itself. "Excuse me," he said loudly enough for Lena to hear. "Is there a reason that obstacle is sitting in the middle of the room? Have you ever heard a word slice through you so sharply you remember the sound more than the letters?" The manager followed his gaze, her jaw tightening when she saw Lena. "I'm sorry for any inconvenience," she said to the man, voice dripping with charm. Then she turned that same face toward Lena, charm gone from her eyes. "Ma'am," she said, "we actually have another spot that might be more appropriate. It's a little out of the way, so you'll be more comfortable, and our guests will have more space to dance." More appropriate. Out of the way. More space for others. You hear the pattern, don't you? Lena's hands rested on the wheels of her chair. "I requested this table when I called," she said. "It's near the window. Easy to get to. I'd like to stay." The manager's smile hardened. "I'm afraid that table is now needed for another party. We really must insist." Before Lena could answer, a busboy, barely older than my youngest grandchild, appeared. "Ma'am, if you'll come with me," he murmured, eyes apologetic but resigned. And so they rolled her away, past the music, past the laughter, to a corner near the kitchen door where the smell of cleaning chemicals drifted through each time it swung. "I ask you, what's worse, being told you can't come in, or realizing they only want you where you can't be seen?" From her little exile, Lena watched as the elegant man who had complained laughed with his partner, their bodies weaving on the dance floor. Every now and then, he glanced toward the corner, just to be sure the problem stayed put. The waiter dropped her salad in front of her with a dull clink. Almonds glittered on top like landmines. "I asked." "You can pick them out," he snapped. "It's not that hard." Lena took a slow breath and did something that surprised even herself. She pushed the plate aside untouched. Injustice can make a person lose their appetite faster than any bad seasoning. Her phone buzzed softly in her bag. She asked the busboy, the only one who seemed to remember she was a person, "Would you mind plugging this in somewhere? I'm waiting on an important call." He nodded quickly. "Of course, ma'am." There was that word again, but from him it felt like respect, not distance. He carried it away, threading through tables, while the manager kept one eye on him, one eye on her donors. Time passed, soft music, clinking glasses, low voices. No one checked whether Lena had been served something she could safely eat. No one asked if she needed water, or warmer air, or even a kind word. Eventually, she caught the manager passing by. "Excuse me," Lena said. "Would you mind directing me to the restroom?" The manager paused, considering. "We don't have an accessible restroom on this floor," she replied. "There's one downstairs, but the lift is out of order, and the stairs are difficult." "Could someone help me?" Lena asked. "I'm not asking for a miracle. Just a way to maintain a little dignity." The manager's eyes flicked over Lena's chair, then toward the investors. "I'm afraid the facilities tonight are reserved for our main guests. It's just not set up for situations like yours." Situations like yours. My dear, never let anyone reduce your entire existence to a situation. Lena's voice shook, but not from weakness. "So I'm welcome to purchase your expensive menu, to sit in your drafty corner, to be moved like furniture when someone wants to dance, but not to wash my hands?" "Ma'am, please don't raise your voice," the manager hissed. "We're running a refined establishment." "Refined," Lena repeated quietly. "I see." Right then, from across the room, the busboy waved timidly. "Ma'am, your phone. Someone important is calling." He wheeled over and placed the phone in her hands. The caller ID flashed the name of her editor, the only person in this city who knew that Mrs. Hart and L.H. Hart were the same stubborn woman. She answered. Yes? Her editor's voice crackled through. How's the Marigold room? Our readers have been begging for this one. Remember, the morning edition closes at midnight. Our photographer is standing by. Lena stared at the glowing ballroom, at the careless faces turned away from her corner. Oh, I'll remember, she murmured. Good, he said. Because after all those letters from disabled diners, if they've done what I suspect, this might be the most important review you ever write. When she hung up, Lena's hands no longer trembled. They were steady, like a judge preparing to read a verdict. Have you ever felt the moment when humiliation turns into resolve, as if someone inside you quietly stands up even if your body cannot? She wheeled herself away from the corner, out into the open, each turn of her hands a refusal to stay hidden. Conversations faltered as she passed. The trio's music softened. The elegant man with the cruel tongue frowned. The manager noticed and hurried forward, panic finally creasing her perfect forehead. Ma'am, please, the manager whispered. You're disturbing our guests. No, Lena replied calmly. I'm finally seeing them. She stopped her chair in the center of the room, where the chandelier light fell on her face. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, her voice carrying further than the music. I apologize for the interruption. I won't keep you long. The manager hissed, security, under her breath, but no one moved. The young host by the door watched, pale and frozen. Lena continued, tonight, the Marigold room invited investors, donors, and critics. Some of you wrote checks so this place could open its doors. I, too, came with something powerful to offer. A murmur rippled through the hall. Someone whispered, is she from the press? With your permission, Lena said, though she needed none, I'll introduce myself properly. My name is Lena Hart. Some of you may know my work under my professional name, L.H. Hart. You could feel the shift in the air. Forks paused midair. A few faces went pale. The elegant man choked on his wine. The manager's lips parted, then shut again. The critic, someone gasped. But L.H. Hart is a man. Lena smiled, a small, tired thing. So I've heard. Amazing what people will assume when they don't bother to ask. The manager stammered, this is a misunderstanding. If we had known that I use a wheelchair? Lena cut in. Or that I hold a pen? A fragile silence fell. I came tonight, she said, because my readers wrote to me. Grandmothers, war veterans, young people born with bodies that move differently. They told me what this room did to them. I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to give you a fair chance to prove them wrong. Her hands tightened on the chair's rims. You failed. Have you ever seen the truth land like a stone in a still pond, sending ripples through every silent person who watched and said nothing? You barred me at the door for not wearing shoes I cannot walk in, Lena continued. You tucked me in a corner where the smell of bleach fought the smell of food. You served me dishes laced with ingredients that could stop my breathing, then told me to pick out the danger myself. You denied me the simplest human right in this place, a bathroom I can use in peace. The manager tried to step forward. We didn't, it's complicated. It isn't complicated, Lena said. It's cruel. And lazy. And illegal in more ways than one. From the back of the room, a quiet voice spoke up. It was the busboy. She's telling the truth, he said, his face pale but determined. I tried to help her. They told me to stop drawing attention. Sometimes courage comes from the smallest uniforms. Lena nodded to him in gratitude. I have spent 20 years writing about food, she went on. I've given glowing praise to tiny family diners with peeling paint and hearts of gold. I've criticized gilded palaces when their kitchens were more ego than flavor. But tonight is the first time I've written a review before tasting a single safe bite. A woman near the bar asked, her voice trembling, "What will you write?" Lena took a breath. "I will write the truth. That the Marigold room built itself like a temple and then decided who was worthy to enter. That it values the sight of a high heel more than the safety of a human being. That if you cannot climb its stairs or glide across its dance floor, it would rather you eat in the shadows or not at all." She paused, letting the words sink in. "I will write that this place made a woman in a wheelchair feel smaller than she's felt since the first week she woke up in a hospital bed and realized she would never walk again." Her voice cracked slightly then, and for a moment, she was not the feared critic but simply my sister, wounded and brave. "And I will sign it," she finished, "with the same name that has filled your dining rooms these last 2 decades. L. H. Hart." The room was so quiet you could hear the ice melting in abandoned glasses. The elegant man who had called her an obstacle tugged at his collar, suddenly aware the eyes of the room were turning, not toward Lena now, but toward him. Shame has a way of finding its rightful owners. The manager finally found her voice. "Miss Hart," she said hurriedly, switching titles like a magician with cards, "surely we can talk about this. We can fix what went wrong tonight. We can move you to the best table, prepare a special menu, bring." Lena shook her head. "You had all evening to see me as a person, not a problem to tuck away. I won't be polished like silverware and put back on display now that you know my name. Dignity is not a dress code." The manager's fingers tightened around her reservation book. "Your words could destroy us," she whispered. Lena's answer was soft. "My words won't destroy you. Your choices already did. My words will just turn on the lights. Have you ever realized too late that you were not just being rude, but writing your own ending in ink? Standing near the entrance, if you can call sitting as straight as you can in your chair, standing," Lena nodded to the young host who had first barred her. "For your sake," she told him, "I hope this night teaches you something before life does it in a harsher way. You're young enough to change." His eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I just did what they told me." "Then next time," she said gently, "ask why before you obey." The busboy hurried over, holding Lena's flats, the high heels she had borrowed, and her coat. "Please," he said, "let me walk you out." As he draped the coat around her shoulders, another staff member slipped a small envelope into her hand. Inside was a note, written in careful, shaky letters. "My mother uses a cane. They never let her in here either. Thank you. Some battles are fought for more people than you can see." Lena looked up one last time at the glittering room. Investors whispered nervously. Guests shifted, uncomfortable under the bright new knowledge of what they had watched and ignored. Some walked out that very night. Others never booked a table there again. She turned her chair toward the door. The wheels rolled smoothly over the red carpet, those ridiculous high heels still buckled uselessly at her feet. As she passed the threshold, the woman who had traded shoes with her earlier was waiting outside, leaning gratefully on a lamppost in Lena's comfortable flats. "How was it in there?" she asked. Lena hesitated, then said, "Memorable." "Did they like your shoes?" the woman joked weakly. Lena smiled sadly. "They liked the shoes more than the person wearing them." The woman shook her head. "Some places don't deserve you. Or me. Or anyone who doesn't fit their picture." Lena nodded. "They'll get my honest opinion in the morning." And oh, did they? The next day, the city woke to a front-page story in the lifestyle section, an unflinching review by L. H. Hart. She did write about the food, what little she learned of it from the menu and the untouched plates. But more than that, she wrote about the dining room's cold heart. She described the dress rule that punished disabled bodies. She described the inaccessible restrooms, the thoughtless jokes, the way the lighting seemed to dim around anyone who didn't move with effortless grace. She printed direct quotes, not their original words, but faithful echoes of their meaning, enough for any regular patron to recognize the spirit of the place. Within hours, the article spread. The phones at the Marigold room rang without rest, some callers angry, others asking, "Is this true?" Reservations were cancelled. A local advocacy group filed a complaint. The city's inspector stopped by with a clipboard and a different sort of smile. Business never quite recovered. The Marigold room stayed open a while, but the music never sounded as smug again. Investors pulled out. Within a year, the gold letters above the door were taken down, leaving only faint shadows against the stone. Years later, when we walk by that corner, there's a little cafe there now, narrow doorway widened, ramp built, tables with enough space between them for wheelchairs and strollers and tired feet. On the wall, there's even a sign. Everyone is welcome at this table. Sometimes, justice doesn't look like a gavel. Sometimes it looks like a ramp. Now, my dear, you might think the story ends there, with a proud critic and a fallen restaurant. But stories like these echo. Not long after the Marigold room closed, a young woman came to see Lena at the paper's office. Her name was Barbara. She was a waitress from another restaurant across town, trembling as she clutched a folder of notes and texts. "My boss keeps touching me," she said, tears shining in her eyes. "He says no court would believe someone would harass a girl who looks like me. That I should be grateful for the attention. Have you ever noticed how bullies use the same lines, in dining rooms and offices alike?" Lena listened, then took her hand. "You came to the right place," she told Barbara. "They were wrong about who gets to eat in certain rooms. They're wrong about who deserves respect too." She didn't just write a column this time. She connected Barbara with a lawyer who believed her. She used her voice, again, to shine light where people preferred shadows. It was slower, messier work than closing a restaurant with one searing review. But little by little, the truth did what it always does when someone has the courage to speak it out loud. Silence protects comfort, truth protects people. So why am I telling you all this tonight, as the clock ticks and the fire grows low? Because someday, you will be the host at the door, or the manager chasing profits, or the guest deciding whether to speak up for the person shoved into the corner. Someday you will see someone turned away for the way they move, the way they look, the way they simply exist. And in that moment, you will have a choice. Will you pretend not to notice, because the music is nice and the food smells expensive? Or will you remember a woman in high heels she could not walk in, rolling calmly to the center of a glittering room to say, "I am here, and I matter"? If this story has stirred something in your heart, if it has reminded you of a time you were that person in the corner, or the one who helped roll someone back into the light, would you tap the like button so more folks can find this tale here on Dust of Old Days? Your little click tells the world these stories are worth listening to, that memory still has work to do in this noisy age. And the next time you see a doorway with no ramp, a rule that makes no sense except to keep some people out, or a joke that lands like a slap, I hope you'll remember Lena, and know that even one steady voice can change the way a whole city eats, thinks, and loves. Now, finish your tea, dear. The night is getting on, and tomorrow you may need your strength. There are always doors to open, tables to widen, and stories to tell.